Let's jump right in. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to bypass literally millennia of myth, legend, and, well, a whole lot of misconceptions to uncover the authentic history of an ancient Semitic deity. Look, if you've heard the name Baal, you probably already have some preconceived notions. But today, we're focusing strictly on the historical reality.
So, who, or maybe the better question is, what was the historical Baal? To set the record straight, we gotta look past all the pop culture demonology and the later theological polemics. We need to look at the hard, physical evidence left by the ancients themselves. We want to know what this figure meant to the people who actually worshipped him. Let's find out. Okay, let's start with our etymological baseline. You see, Baal wasn't originally a proper name at all. It was literally just a common Semitic word meaning lord, owner, or husband. But over time, this secular title became totally synonymous with one specific, incredibly powerful Northwest Semitic storm and fertility god named Hadad. It's kind of like how people say the boss today, and everyone in the room knows exactly who they're talking about. Our explainer today is basically an archaeological case file. We'll be hitting the true meaning of Baal, the Ugaritic Baal Cycle, the Thunderbolt stele, the megaliths of Baalbek, Carthage, and Baal Hammon, and wrapping up with our historical sources and texts.
Section 1. The true meaning of Baal, the storm god Hadad.
What's genuinely fascinating is how this core identity actually breaks down. Like we said, it started as a secular title, right? But it became the absolute primary way to refer to Hadad. And you have to put yourself in the shoes of the ancient people in the Near East. They depended entirely, and I mean entirely, on seasonal rains to survive. Because of that, Baal was celebrated as the rider of the clouds. He was this vital, dynamic force bringing the moisture that literally prevented famine. They called him the victorious Baal and the Lord of the Heavens. He was responsible for the life-giving rain, the dew, the agricultural abundance, the whole shebang. The ancient sources actually tell us that without Baal, there was no dew, no downpour, and no welcome voice of thunder to break the brutal summer heat. So when they called him Lord, it wasn't just a title of respect. It was an expression of total, literal dependence for their very survival.
Moving on to Section 2. The Ugaritic Baal Cycle, the cosmic battle for order.
This is where the story gets really good. Back in 1928, there was this completely accidental discovery in modern-day Syria that led archaeologists right to the ancient city of Ugarit. And what did they find? A massive library of ancient clay tablets dating back to between 1400 and 1200 BCE. These tablets contained the Baal cycle. Actually, scratch that. It's more than just a cycle. It's a highly sophisticated theological drama. See, before this find, almost everything we knew about Baal came from the texts of his rivals. But these tablets, they showed us Baal as the ultimate protagonist of cosmic order in the Canaanite religion, a real game changer.
And this cycle brilliantly illustrates the absolute cosmic stakes for humanity. In the texts, Baal is locked in this intense, endless struggle against two terrifying foes. First up is Yamm. Yamm represents the chaotic, destructive sea and unruly floods. Baal has to violently conquer Yamm just to establish divine kingship and basic cosmic order. But then there's Mot. Mot is the god of death and drought. In a cycle that directly reflects the changing seasons, Baal actually surrenders to Mot. He dies and goes to the underworld, which plunges the earth into a severe drought. But don't worry, he's eventually resurrected, overcomes the underworld, and brings back the seasonal rains and fertility. He represents the life-giving rain fighting an eternal battle against total chaos on one side and devastating drought on the other. And it wasn't a one-and-done battle. It was a cyclical struggle mirroring the agricultural year. Every single time the rains came back, it meant Baal had conquered death once again.
Let's hit Section 3, the Thunderbolt stele, visualizing the deity.
I want to read you something. The lance he thrusts into the ground evokes thunder striking the earth. The leaves sprouting from the lance recalls the vegetal world. That quote is straight from the Louvre Museum in Paris. It's describing the 1932 discovery of the limestone Baal with Thunderbolt stele. This artifact is absolutely crucial because it gives us a concrete, physical look at how his worshippers visualized his power.
Just look at how every single detail reinforces his role. He's portrayed as this vigorous, athletic, young deity. He's wearing a helmet with bull's horns, which, by the way, is a universal ancient symbol for strength and virility. Now check out his hands. His raised right hand is brandishing a mace of power, ready to strike down cosmic chaos. And his left hand?
It's holding a spear shaped like a plant, but he's holding it pointing downward, exactly like a lightning bolt striking the earth. It is literally the perfect visual for his dual role. He's the terrifying master of storms, but also the benevolent provider of the harvest. And to top it off, he's standing on a pedestal representing the mountains and the sea, his ultimate domains of power.
Okay, Section 4. The Megaliths of Baalbek. Architecture of Awe.
We are heading south to the Bekaa Valley in Lebanon now. 800. Just take a second to process that number. 800 tons. That staggering figure is the weight of just one single foundation stone located at the ancient site of Baalbek. These megaliths make up what is known as the Trilithon. We're talking about 3 giant limestone blocks in the temple podium, each one about 19 meters long and placed together with machine-like precision. It's honestly mind-boggling. Baalbek had already been a profoundly sacred Canaanite settlement for millennia. So when the Romans eventually conquered the area, they were so awestruck by the sheer significance of the place that they built their own colossal Temple of Jupiter Baal directly over these unfathomably heavy Bronze Age megaliths. They effectively merged their own supreme sky god, Jupiter, with the ancient local Baal. The fact that Roman engineers, who were master builders themselves, chose to utilize these pre-existing 800-ton blocks that would seriously stress out modern cranes today, just goes to show how deeply sacred and genuinely awe-inspiring Baalbek was to the ancient world.
Section 5. Carthage and Baal Hammon. The Punic diaspora.
So the big takeaway here is that as the Phoenicians expanded their massive trade networks all across the Mediterranean, the worship of Baal went right along with them. And of course, it adapted. If we compare his Canaanite roots at Ugarit to his Punic evolution in Carthage, the shift is pretty clear. In the Carthaginian Empire in North Africa, he evolved into Baal Hammon. He wasn't just a storm god under a higher deity anymore, he became the supreme king of the Punic pantheon. Even his symbols changed. In the Levant, he was all about the bull and the Thunderbolt. But in Carthage, his primary symbol became the ram and horns, and his main cult center was an open-air sanctuary at a 2-horned mountain called Jebel Bukarnain.
Over in Carthage, he was worshipped alongside the goddess Tanit, and together they were the ultimate source of fertility and prosperity. Baal Hammon was depicted completely differently here, as a majestic older man with curling ram's horns and a crown. It's a perfect example of how a localized Northwest Semitic storm god evolved to become the sovereign, ruling deity of an entire Mediterranean empire. The Carthaginians were relying on him for way more than just rain. They were relying on him for the absolute survival and dominance of their entire civilization.
Section 6. Historical sources and texts. The academic evidence.
Okay, we've looked at the etymology, we've talked about ancient clay tablets, we've dug into the physical steles and those crazy megaliths. Now I want to explicitly read out our sources, because we are strictly grounding this explainer in academic evidence. The information today was built directly from the Ugaritic Baal Cycle, specifically the KTU 1.1 through 1.6 tablets from Ras Shamra, the Baal with Thunderbolt stele records from the Louvre Museum, scholarly research on Baalbek and its impossible megaliths and the Baalbek stones, historical articles concerning Baal Hammon and the Punic religion, and finally, foundational entries from the World History Encyclopedia and Encyclopedia.com on Baal. So I want to leave you with a final thought today. Think about the authentic historical figure we've just uncovered. We're talking about a deity who stood for life-giving rain, agricultural survival, and the endless fight against cosmic chaos. If a figure representing such vital positive forces for the ancients could be totally transformed into a symbol of ultimate evil over the centuries, well, it kind of makes you wonder. How much else of our ancient human history is still buried beneath millennia of similar misconceptions? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep questioning what you think you know.